incense and said some prayers and, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's crazy.
What's up, guys? We're back. We're talking about our
Talk about
last talking about our last podcast episode, and just some interesting comments we got on it. Um, and we were just talking about how we find it. But basically, one thing I just want to say is because of interesting feedback, or not so much feedback, but comments. And it's like kind of like you said, Nate. It's people projecting their stuff onto us. By all means, in these podcast episodes, we're here trying to just spread love and light and wisdom that we've received and helped us see this whole human journey, which is actual spiritual journey, just in the human form, a little bit differently. But we, by all means, don't care if you don't agree. Like, we're not worried about that. We're not doing it to try to transform people's thinking and like, oh my God, follow what. We're not pushing anything upon anybody. We're literally just putting out what I'm speaking for you, Nate. I shouldn't speak for you, but I'm putting out, the deeper stuff I've learned, and now look at life completely different, and I understand the spiritual journey that we're on and why we're here, more than this other, very one way of thinking that I was handed when I was younger, which is fine if people want to follow it. I always tell people that is, you're absolutely right. But at the end of the day, I the more I've learned over the last probably 8 years, the more I've seen life on a whole different playing field, right? And I understand things in my eyes on a deeper level, and understand what I'm really here for and what's truly important to me and what's not. So oftentimes what I've realized is when I coach people, speak to people, and kind of give them that view, that perspective, and help them broaden their viewpoint, they actually start to see things a little bit differently, and they stop holding on to things that they were holding on to with so much attachment in the past, and they realize, oh, I don't need to have any of this aversion or attachment to these things, right? Which is
Mhm.
what causes us suffering. Like, you're hand, excuse me, you're handed one way of thinking and believing, and you suffer because things don't go the way they told you it's supposed to in that one belief. When you understand that everything is actually working out perfectly in the divine setting and plan, but because we've been taught one thing, and it's like, well, it doesn't say that in that book. Well, guess what? It's okay. You're gonna be okay. Everything's working out in divine order. So
That's what is hard for me to try to explain to some people because, first of all, about the comments, those are going to come anyway. We're not,
of course,
like Brian said,
absolutely,
we're not here to hold your feet to the fire and make you believe exactly what we believe, because actually everyone has their own idea of different belief, or own way of working it out themselves. It's your path to walk. So no one's here to convince you. If it bothers you that much, don't watch it. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
absolutely, absolutely. That's exactly how I feel. I'm like, I love how people like. So to me, I can care less about people's comments. My thing is, uh, if you don't like what we say and it doesn't sit well with you, then it's pretty simple. Don't listen to it,
well,
right?
what's interesting about
I
that?
don't I don't read books that don't sit well with me. I don't watch podcasts that don't sit well with me. I don't feel the need to judge them on it because I really don't give a shit. You're free to put whatever you want and say whatever you want and think whatever you want. In my eyes, as long as you're not harming anybody else, mentally, physically, or spiritually, but you're sharing how you view things, or from your heart how things seem to you. Great, that's your right, right?
Now, that's a interesting. That is the truth because, um, like, how can I word this? Like, it's your own path to walk. But if you know, everyone has different life experiences. So, with the experiences that myself and Brian have had, we know that there's a God. All right. Like, there is a God. There's no way there's not. Right. Would you agree on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
I've had time and time again so much evidence and so many synchronicities to show me that yes, there is a great creator. There's a greater thing going on that uh, brought us all here and why we're here. And so yeah, definitely, it's not just it happenstance. It didn't just happen.
yeah, there's no way. Because even like, like I love the thing about science, the comment about science. It's like, who do
Yeah.
you think created it? The study of science is legitimately the study of God because he created it. He
That's why they
created
say
everything.
science and spirituality is now married together. And these people like Greg Brayton, if that person were to go and look up somebody like Greg Brayton, who is a scientist, but now always speaks of spirituality, understanding that the two are married and are one. Um, and he's been a scientist for years and years. This person probably has no knowledge in anything. And, it's like, go look at people that actually have been studying something for 40 years and understand it on a deeper level, and then be like, maybe that'll give you a little bit different viewpoint. See, that's the thing. It's kind of like Wayne Dyer used to say, have a mind open to everything and attached to nothing, right? That's when I understood that on a deeper spiritual level, is just having my mind completely open to learning from all different avenues and areas. And honestly, like, the things that show me and teach me deeply sit well with my soul immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
I have to convince myself of something in my brain, my monkey mind, then that's obviously not sitting well with me, and I'm trying to convince myself to feel or believe this thing. But if it hits my soul and I'm like, wow, that makes the utmost sense to me, probably pretty valid for my soul anyway. It doesn't have to be for anybody else, right? So
Another thing about I watch a lot of like spiritual type videos, so that's why honestly my I don't even read the Bible, to be honest with you. All of
I
my
don't either.
stuff is from YouTube videos, most of it. But mine just so happens to be mostly Christian stuff. But what I was just telling somebody is that it's not my place to push it on you. It's your path to walk. But at the same time, and like I told you, I think before we started recording, when you start to advocate, that's not the right word, but I'm going to use it. When you start to advocate for God and that we're supposed to like love each other and do good things, there is another side to this. But a lot of people don't recognize, because like some of those comments, some people don't even believe in any of it. It's like, okay, so then you basically are casting yourself to be vulnerable to anything because you have no knowledge, or you won't acknowledge the spiritual aspect of being human, right? And I was listening to this one video I found, and it said warfare is a part of our lives. And this guy was like, when people ask me all the time, when does it end? And he's like, when you die. And that struck such a chord with me, because like you and I, we talk a lot, and everything is spiritual, but that's the warfare part, and people don't even realize that that's what's happening. But another part
Yep.
of that too is because, like, one of the gentlemen that we saw with the crazy Facebook pictures of demons and all that stuff, what a lot of people do is they avoid taking accountability for their own crappy behavior and crappy mindset, but they're stuck in it. So some people, like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? It's the same thing with everything.
Absolutely. And
So
if you notice, those always tend to be the people that are so defensive in posting things like that, because they probably honestly feel like complete and utter shit about themselves, but they're let me project this out on other people because I don't like me. It's funny. So,
that's the same. That's what everything. That's what generational curses are. That's what family problems are. That's what getting angry at work. It's everything. If you are a certain way, you're going to project that out into the world that you're in, into your environment. So if you're loathsome and mad or sad all the time, you're just going to give off those vibes all the time.
absolutely, because we're all made of energy, and so the energy you're projecting, the energy you're giving off, is what the world is receiving, and the universe doesn't know what to do other than just replicate what you're putting out. So if you're putting out negative, harmful energy or down low energy, you're going to attract more of that, because the universe is assuming that that's what you want, right? But then when
Yeah.
you're giving off good, loving, light, solid energy, people are like, oh, I want to give you more of that. I'm attracted to that, right? So that's why I tell people, be careful, because what do you want to attract? Do you want the
Yeah.
negativity and the heaviness, or do you want the lighthearted, light energy to surround you?
And
It's
I
it's
also,
be aware.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point because I don't want to give off this idea that like I'm perfect because I'm not. This is what me and Brian are talking about is daily work. Every single day, multiple times a day, you have to get yourself into those spaces of positivity, of love and light because there's things outside of your control that happen and you'll have a natural response of anger, sadness, whatever. But I saw there's another quote that I really love, and it was actually from the show The Chosen. And Jesus is, I don't remember the name of the guy he's talking to, but the guy asked Jesus, like, why is everything so hard? And he's like, I know everything is hard, but that's because everything is hard when man tries to lean on his own understanding. So I think that there's a certain point where it's like, just surrender, like we talk about. Like, you don't have to figure everything out.
No, you don't have to know the details. You literally need to be able to have an open mind and open heart to what is happening in your along your journey is the way I look at it. What I've understood is when I try to control things and make things happen, I'm sitting there oftentimes saying to myself, well, shit, that didn't happen the way I thought it was going to, because I thought I had full control, right? For the longest time. The more I've understood surrender, the more I've given over and said, okay, I will take intentional steps each day, honestly, to be my highest and best version. So whatever I did yesterday or earlier today, I don't live in the past, but I use it as a lesson. I look at how can I improve upon those things, right? So if I had a situation present itself to me yesterday and I responded like a jackass, how can I be different today if that same or a similar situation, poses itself to me? And so that's how I look at things now is like everything is literally happening in divine order and happening just the way it's supposed to, even the challenges, because great, perfect. Thank you. I'm so grateful for this because I know it's teaching me something, right? And it's trying to benefit me. It's trying to help me be my best and highest version. But remember, the ego, the monkey mind, is going to tell you the opposite because it wants you to stay into your small self. It wants you to be where you've always known. And change to the ego is like death. So that death to the ego is going to be, so that's when the ego is screaming at you. You're changing. It's like I tell people when they start practicing meditation. You start meditating, you start to get the mind quiet, the ego starts screaming. What are you doing? This is a waste of time. Why are you sitting here? You're not being productive, so on and so forth. But that's literally not the case. You are learning to quiet your mind, be still, and listen for that divine guidance, right? When I'm in silence, when I'm in calm, if there's something that I'm struggling with, there's something that I've put out and prayed for, literally I get my answers in the silence.
That's my camera. Oh no, technical difficulties.
Yay.
Am I?
Dude, you're like an optical illusion, bro.
I'm I can't think of scientific words right now. Um but yeah, like that's something I ponder about almost on a daily basis is because like I've gone through my own changes over the last few months and it's like I'm not even the same. It's like I'm me, but I'm not the same person. I don't even know. It's just crazy. Like, but when you're talking about the past, like, doesn't matter what's happened in your past. Well, okay. Depending on the severity of whatever you've done in your life, you can always fix it most of the time. But a lot of people, they, like you said, they live in that fear-based ego, monkey mind area but that's the thing is that we've been brought up in that. We're taught that from birth. Oh, if you
We're
don't do this, you're
conditioned.
gonna if you don't drink water, you're gonna die. Like, it's like that sounds silly because everybody knows it, but that's what I would liken it to is like everyone thinks that they have everything figured out, and then you become an adult from a child and you're like, no one knows what they're doing. Still,
Exactly. Exactly. Well,
like no
because
one
we're
has
always learning. This is a school of earth. We're here to learn. We're here to grow. We're here to expand. That's why I say it's when someone comes to you and says, "Man, you've changed," good, because you're supposed to. If you're still the exact same person you were even a year ago, 5 years ago, whatever, then you're literally just sitting and dying and rotting away. You're not actually achieving what you were put here for, which is growth, right? And that's not on a human level, that's on a spiritual level, like you seeing things differently, you growing and responding differently. You know, your likes will change, things will change because you're growing and understanding and seeing things from a whole different perspective, you know. So we're here to grow, we're here to learn. So like you said, we should always be learning, always be growing. That should be a daily practice. So I tell people, anything that's helping you grow mind, body, and soul should literally be a daily practice for the rest of your life until you leave this human form, period.
And you know, I want to, you know what, you just made me think, for those folks or anyone who for lack of a better way of saying it, denies God. You're gonna meet him eventually one day, you know, but everyone, that's your own path. But I hope that those people learn,
Well, I just
because
recommend I recommend to people, honestly, you and I've talked about NDEs and near death experiences. I recommend to people to look up, podcasts on YouTube with people that have had near death experiences. Read Anita Moorjani's book, Dying to Be Me. You know, you start to see these people, like some of them already believed, others didn't. Others were, in the state of being an atheist, which is up to them. But then when they had the near death experience, they realized, holy crap, there is something. When you go to the other plane, you're like, whoa, wait a minute, there's something else there. So, it's okay. Like I always tell people, believe what you want to believe. I'm not here to try to sway your beliefs. I only want to spread light and love. And if people take it and it hits them well, and they're like, yes, this is great, wonderful. If folks are like, I don't need it, I don't want to hear it, don't. No big deal. I'm not trying to push it on you. I'm not standing on the corner with a pamphlet being like, hey, come believe what I believe. No, I'm not doing that, So
no, man, like that's what I was telling you about. So my uncle passed last week
yeah,
from
I'm sorry about
pancreatic
that. I know I
cancer.
texted you, but I wanted to say it on here. I'm sorry about that. So
But no, thank you. But I know we were going to talk a little bit about it, but some of the stuff I learned, or the things that I have learned, the way I handled this death is different from all the others I've handled, like myself. Because, like in my family, yes, he's my uncle, but we've all, like in my family where I grew up, we're all pretty close, you know? So, but that, exactly what you just said, like, I'm like, well, he's not suffering anymore. He's at peace. He's meeting his father who passed away 33 years ago. You know, he's at peace now. He's because they're like, ah, death is just a transition from this physical body. And what that's what kind of gave me a peace about it. It's like, oh, I was kind of, in a way, I was a little jealous. I'm like, man, you get to go, god dang, like you get to go have fun, because then those NDE videos I've watched are like, it's the most real anything's ever felt. It's everything is fine, like no issues, no whatever. I'm with my loved ones. I'm in heaven. I'm with God, whatever. So I'm like, man, lucky you, kind of thing, But um, in the same sense too, like when someone passes in our human existence, it doesn't still mean you don't have grief. But that's what a lot of people misinterpret about like death, is like, yes, it's natural to grieve, but if you know that there's a life after this one, then you really don't have anything to fear. And amazingly, because I was talking to my wife about it. I'm like, how do I, because I'm good. Like I cried, I was sad, but I was good. You know what I mean? And then I was talking to my wife. I'm like, how can I explain this to my family members who are having this hard time, a harder time than some people or other people, because it affects everyone differently. And surprisingly, everyone's like, he's at peace, like he's good now because he suffered before, but because of the pancreatic cancer and all that stuff, and it was not good. Um, but what I was thinking is, when someone passes that you love or that is a family member, think about the other people who are still alive.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like my grandmother, her husband passed away shortly after I was born, and then just now her son passed away. So I'm like, man, I wonder how my grandmother's doing, Like, so I pray for her, or I text her or call her, I love you, because, but that's what we're supposed to do is like, yes, is it sad for you? Yeah, but what about the people that I think that as human beings in general, we have a responsibility to the people that we care about, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, but it's not all about I, because I is the ego, right? It's about caring for the ones that are around you that you have in a way, you have a responsibility for. So but that was a different kind of lesson, or like kind of like I keep getting I don't know if I'd say a lesson, but I keep getting like reminders. I'm like, oh, I heard this before, but oh, here's your reminder. And then that's why it motivated me to the lesson I got from it is to persist and to pursue and to keep going forward to what you want to do in life, because one day you're gonna go.
Yep.
So, like you said, you have to die to your ego. A lot of people die before they even actually physically die. There's people who die when they're 15, they're 20, 25, and they don't actually die until they're 80 because they have just given up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think it's the whole concept of dying while you're still alive. Well, and this is in a different way, but dying while you're still alive, dying to the old beliefs, dying to the old dogma and prison that you put yourself in, and actually just like understanding things from a deeper level and being fully open to where this journey is going to take you. Right. Because we put ourselves in boxes and in belief systems, and like, so death being one of them, being fearful of that. Why? Um, understand that everything, even people like so death, just to touch on it quickly, is we all have a finite time in this body, but our soul is eternal, right? So we're going to move on. I believe in reincarnation. I believe we come back. We come back and experience different lives. But in this one form, you being Nate, me being Brian, is the only time we will be here in these bodies. So why not, like you said, pursue things to the fullest, do not in a full manner or in a worldly manner, even in that sense, but just if you feel passionate about something that you really want to do, change you want to see, make, whatever the case is, go out and do it and push it and do what you can. But at the end of the day, also understand that you're being divinely guided. So when things don't work out or when things are taken away, it's because that was part of the plan for your journey, right? The whole thing with that too is, remember, everything is temporary in this human form. In this material world, everything is temporary. That's why when I tell people I don't have attachment to things and to people, it's not because I don't love, it's not because I don't feel, it's because I know that at any point, anything or anyone could be taken away from me, right? And I will love the hell out of you while you're here. But if you so are removed from me in one way, shape, or form, it's because it was intended to be so, unless it was something by my action, which it won't be. Otherwise, it's going to be, it was intended to be. So that's why I try to tell people, don't hold on to things. Don't hold on to people. Like, understand, love, be grateful for everyone and everything, have gratitude for all, but understand that everything in this material world is temporary. The only thing that's
Well,
eternal is the soul.
yeah, that's exactly what we talked about kind of the last episode too, is that actually you saying that there's a quote from Marcus Aurelius that says, don't be afraid don't be afraid of losing anything because nothing actually belongs to you.
Yeah,
Like,
we don't really
think
own
about it.
anything.
Nothing belongs to us.
We don't own anything. We don't own anyone. Right?
And think about how many people, let's think about, like, now that I've changed, like the changes I've gone through, kind of exactly what you just said is like, at the end of like, the best way I can say it, it's going to sound weird, but like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, it does matter, but it doesn't. I don't know what other way to put that to make it articulated to other people. You know what I mean?
No, I get what you're saying. There's oftentimes things that I try to explain. Um, like I try to explain to my girlfriend, like, hey, but to put it into our language doesn't do it any justice. You know what I mean? I'm like, if you could literally if you could be inside of me and see what I'm trying to explain, you'd be like, oh, like I get it, right? Because
Isn't
there's
that
so
a
many
weird
things
thing?
that I try to put into like our English language, like with passion, and people are like, what? I'm like, because you just don't get what I'm trying to explain, because I can't put it into the right verbiage for you to see the passion I feel behind, or like you said, you know how many times I sit in contemplation and mindfulness and meditation and I look at things and I'm like, a lot of this stuff doesn't matter. I'm like, what the hell are we so worried about so much for so many
Mhm.
things when really none of it matters, right? Like some of the shit that we try to do and achieve, or the stuff that we worry about people thinking about us or whatever, I'm like, why does it all matter? It doesn't, you know?
No, it
And
doesn't.
at the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, live your life with the with passion. Go out if you have a passion to see something different in the world and be that change, and do everything you can to hopefully foster that and be a light to everyone around you. But like I tell people, but don't hold on to the outcomes of things, and don't hold on to all these these worldly views. And I'm not saying worldly to put anybody down. It's more of just the simple fact that so many of the things that people wake up every day and they're so like frustrated, oh my gosh, I gotta do all this stuff. It's like at the end of the day, none of it's gonna mean shit. Like, so the bigger things are if you literally go out and each day you send someone love, right? You have a great conversation and maybe that conversation helped light up somebody's day. That to me is a bigger deal than if if my business makes another $1 billion, like fucking, oh, whoop-de-doo, because I mean, like, it's seriously, it's like there's such small things that can be so beautiful, or just going out and going into nature and looking at the beauty of the creations that we are around, right? And it's just, there's so many different things, like having that human connection, being able to go out and share a great meal with somebody and laugh and love and learn something new. Like that stuff to me is more important than a lot of the stuff that people are so stressed out about.
Well, talking about that and like being worldly, there's a Bible verse that says, collect for yourself treasures in heaven, not of the world," which basically means don't focus on all this worldly, like money is the easiest thing to compare it to, right? Just like when we work together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. It's like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
dude, but people put such a focus on all these worldly things, and when that's what's hard for like people like you and me, when you're like, it doesn't matter, bro. Like,
No. It's crazy because I think about how, like in that scenario, if the where you and I were and what we were doing, if one of those folks died tomorrow, none of it would matter. All the shit they were worried about, all the stuff they were pushing for, wouldn't even matter, right? So if you
mhm.
can look at things nowadays and say, God, thank you for everything I receive. For like, if I'm out serving and God says, hey, Brian, here's $1 billion. Cool. Thank you. Awesome. What am I going to do with it? I'm going to make sure my family's good, and I'm going to go out and help as many people in many situations as I can with that whole thing. Right. Um, but at the end of the day, am I going to stress myself out every day trying to accumulate and store and do all this shit? For what reason? I know people will be like, well, I'm doing it for my kids. Okay. Again, whatever God gives me, yes, I will gladly hand over to my kids and help them out, or my grandkids or whoever, right? But even that, they're on their own journey. They're going to be doing what they're going to be doing. Everything's going to be okay, right?
Mhm.
And so we're here hoarding and doing all this stuff, when honestly God gave us a playground of a world to go and experience. So if you do acquire things, if you're able to, I always tell people, own less crap and less things. And why don't you, if you have wealth, go out and like meet new people, explore new countries, learn wisdom, go out and have a great meal in Thailand and like meet some amazing elders that are going to give you some great wisdom and a great story, right? Like that's going to be one hell of a life to me anyway, as opposed to being on the same street my whole life so that I can have this house for 50 years so that someone else can come and get it. And at the end of the day, no one cares, right? Because
Yeah.
you're going to do all this stuff for your kid that at one point your kid may be like, I really don't give a shit about any of that stuff. And it doesn't matter anyway, because it's all temporary, right? So I always tell people, like, what are you passionate about? What do you love? Don't do things, don't make decisions because someone told you this is the way you're supposed to live. Says who? What does your heart tell you? Right? And I
Hmm.
tell people, whatever your heart tells you, it may seem completely unconventional because it will to most. Who cares? Go do it anyway. You know?
Yeah, you don't need other. You don't need if you. That's something like I've talked to. I jokingly, like say to my wife, like I only answer to two people, God and you, but um, but really only to God. But
I
that's
was going to say,
because,
I would really have to say it only be to my creator. And
yeah,
I know that I'm sure Michelle would look at me with a look, but I'd be like, hey, I don't, I mean, she knows I don't expect her to answer me and I don't answer her. I have respect for her and I'm going to talk to her about things. But at the
yeah.
end of the day, do I feel like I have to answer to another human? No. You know, we're all, I mean, we're all a part of God. And really, at the end of the day, if we're just talking to our creator and then giving off that beautiful energy, like, why do we need to get anybody else's approval except for what God puts in your heart?
Well, that specific. When I said it, it was when I was going to leave the job in Virginia.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like everything in my body was like leave, but I was like I don't know. I was like I knew it was the right answer, but I needed that go ahead from her, like okay, do it, kind of thing. Or I agree.
You're probably better than I, because I probably would have been on the highway home and been like, hey babe, I just left that job. I'm coming home because my soul straight up told me that I wasn't supposed to be there anymore. You know what
Well,
I
I was
mean?
almost, dude. I'm telling you, I was almost there, but I was like, I should probably just let her know first. I don't know,
Yeah.
but,
No,
but
I totally
yeah,
get it. I totally get it. I'm just giving you shit. But I just,
I know.
I guess it's just the place that I've come to is just definitely not because I wouldn't respect obviously her opinion or her view. And I do, like, there's things that I talk to her about, like, hey, what do you think of this? Because I want to hear her opinion on stuff. I think just for me overall, it's just learning that people, no matter who they are, could be your family, could be whoever, right? People you're close to, you ask their opinion and they're gonna have just that, their opinion. And where that's coming from, maybe coming from a very good place, but at the end of the day, it still may be some kind of projection of their own fear, their own worry, their own concern, right? Like you take an idea to your mom, you're like, Mom, I want to go build this whatever in Africa. And your mom's like, what the hell are you doing? Because of this and this, or, they have their whole other opinion on it. And your soul is convinced that you're supposed to do that, then go do it. Right? Don't worry about the outcome.
Well, that's what we talked about with taking inspired action.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And actually, it was interesting that since we brought up the subject and we're on the topic of, well, men and women, I saw this thing, and I'm curious to know what you think about this, Brian, because I've experienced it in both ways most recently. And what I'm talking about is it says that men are supposed to be the spiritual leaders in the family, basically. Men are supposed to be the ones to bring their family to God. So I want to get your insight on that because I've noticed, like when I first met my wife, and we've been together for over a decade now, is that she was the one that kind of led me to it in the first place, but now I'm the one that's kind
Mhm.
of like maintaining it and kind of like encouraging it, so to speak. But in the Bible it says men are the leaders of spirituality in their family. And I think
You also have to
with
remember the Bible's been rewritten and uh reinterpreted a million times,
yeah,
and that's
no, I
a
know. That's why I
million.
want to get your
A
insight.
million is used loosely,
Well, yeah,
and
that's why
so
I'm saying like I don't even really read it because one, I'm like this is crazy. Like the first when I started reading it, Genesis is all crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
mhm.
But I guess what I'm trying to get to is, do you think that men and women have different strengths in spirituality,
I
like different
personally
roles?
don't think I personally don't think that it's gender based. I think that that is very patriarchal of people, is that, you know, men are supposed to do X, Y, and Z, women are supposed to do X, Y, and Z. Just like you said, when you first, you know, got with your wife and your wife was the one kind of leading you more toward the spiritual aspect of life, and then now you tend to be leading a little bit more. It's literally because she was at one place when you met, and then you grew, and now you're at another place. And so in a union, it's, hey, I'm right here. I'm going to help you come up. I'm going to try to bring you up if you feel like you're falling behind. And then the other way around. So it doesn't matter that it's man or woman. It's both sides should be able to equally help each other and pull each other up to be a better version of themselves. Right.
See, that's
So
something.
if you're growing spiritually, it's not just the man's job to be like, hey, you lowly people, let me lift you up. No. You know what I mean? Because it's like you literally can have a very like wise woman that has this profound wisdom that you get into this relationship with her and she shares it with you and you're just like, whoa, blows your mind, because you're like, I never looked at things that way. Right. So if people want to look at it from a quote unquote leadership standpoint, that woman is now the leader because she's the one that's showing you this. But in all reality, like a man, if a man's supposed to be leading, a man should have a healthy balance, a yin and yang of feminine and masculine, both, right?
Yeah.
Men are taught a very unhealthy way of looking at life. You're a man, you're a warrior all the time, which is why you have a bunch of men running around pounding their chest, wearing a mask because they're like, oh, I'm going to act like I'm Billy Badass all the time, when in all reality, inside, you're just a big ass teddy bear. And there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Dude,
Like,
what's awesome about this? You know what's awesome that I asked you that question is what you just said. I literally had that conversation with my wife earlier. I was like, think about how
what's
I
up?
used to be. I was all that warrior shit all the time. It was never
Mm-hmm.
turned off. And now look at me. I'm like, it's still there, but it's not like the forefront of my life, you know?
That's the point. You
So
put me.
because
That's what I say all the
because
time.
I agree with what you're saying, but
Yeah,
it's interesting. The
I say the
synchronicities.
same
It's
thing
just
though.
interesting.
It is. It's because you and I literally, we know, like, one of us is going through something, the other one's like literally going through something similar. One of us has a conversation, the other one's like, holy shit, I just had that conversation 2 days ago. It's like it's synchronistic because we're in alignment, right? And that's the thing, dude. It's like you just said, the warrior in me is still there, right? When I need to pull it out, if I'm doing a hard ass workout, guess what? My only two options are to finish or to die. Like, so that's a warrior mentality, right? And I tell people that all the time. Like, that's literally me. Like, I'm not going to just be like, well, this is hard, I'm going to give up. No. And that's pretty much me in life. I face something hard. There's times where I want to run like hell, but I don't. I'll face it, I'll stand in it, and I'll deal with it. That's the warrior side of me, right? But the majority of the time, I am extremely loving, caring, and I want to see the best for everybody. I want to help the world as much as I can, right? But if I got to go do something tough and rough, I'm going to do it. But I don't feel that I need to always be in that state like I used to. I used to years ago feel like I needed to always be Mr. Tough Guy. And I realized so often, even back then, I was like, but this is not who you are all the time. So why are you putting this show on? Right. So nothing I do now is in a context of like, oh, I'm a man, I need to lead this, lead that. No, no, no. Me and my partner, her and I are both going to work together cohesively to lift each other up, and let's go toward that vision we have for life, toward the vision we wanted to serve with, whatever it is. But there's going to be days, me as a man, supposedly I'm supposed to be the leader. Why is it certain days I'm going to wake up? And typically I'm very optimistic and very positive, but there's going to be days that I go through something where I'm going to feel a little bit down, and she may not, and she can help lift me up. Or she may feel a little bit down, and it's my job to lift her up, right? That's what a true union and partnership, I believe, should be about. It's not like, hey, let me put all the pressure on me because you're the woman. You can just sit there and do nothing. I'm going to lead everything. Which is why you have these men running around stressed out of their mind because they're like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to lead everything in the house, and I'm having a day where I feel like complete and utter shit. And what, you know what I mean? No, then take your day and feel like shit. Go meditate, go pray, go just be alone and sad because that's what you need to do that day. But men are told that they have to constantly be leading things because that's some bullshit way of thinking, right? When we all have masculine and feminine, it's supposed to have a healthy balance. And again, if you're with a woman that's solid in herself, she's gonna help you when you're having a shit of a time. She's gonna be there to have your back, right? She's gonna lift you up. So yeah, I know. I just have a complete disagreement on that when they say the man's supposed to be the spiritual leader, the this leader, the that leader. I'm like, Who was that Mr. Patriarchal guy standing up there saying like, you're a man, you're in charge of everything? It's like, no, not true. You know?
Yeah, no, I'm glad I asked it, because exactly what you were describing was like, it's almost like that, kind of like that ladder, like one person's up here, one person's down here. That's exactly how it's supposed to, exactly what you said. That's what I believe it's how it's supposed to work, is exactly how you described it, because it's the truth. Like, that's the purpose of being with a partner, is you uplift each other when the other is down, you know?
Yeah.
And that's
Because
not
we're
just,
not,
that's with anything.
yeah, it's in any place of life, because very typically most people are not all at the same place, especially in a partnership. Not everybody's just at the same spot, even though sometimes you'd like that person to be there, but they're not, they may not be, and that's okay, because we're all on our journey and we're all in our own place on our journey. And that's why, if I believe when you go through something, you're given this wisdom, it's your job to share it with people. Because for the people that do want to receive that wisdom and grow, they're going to be like, great, I wasn't there, but now I am, because you're showing me, right? So it's the same situation in your partnership, is that, like, if you're a partner, and it could be the woman doing it for the man doing it for the woman. It's basically like, hey, I'm struggling a little bit here. And then your female comes up to you and says, hey, like, I see things this way, and it lifts you up. And you're like, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Right.
But you see what we're talking about right now? We're talking about
Yeah.
the bigger concept of what we're talking about is, don't be so rigid with everything. Just like Wayne Dyer
Don't,
says.
yes, don't follow these belief systems that you were handed. Question everything. That's what I tell people. I, from a very young age, questioned everything. Why do we have to do it that way? Why is that the only way things are right? I've done that my entire life, no matter what role I've been in, because I'm like, why is that the only way to do things? Why is that the only way to believe? Right. And you have folks, which I'm okay with, they can follow their belief systems all they want. I tell people, go for it. When I learned to open up my heart and open up my mind to learning from different areas and different avenues, it really gave me a different perspective on life. And Wayne Dyer happens to be one of my greatest spiritual mentors. And that's what he taught, is just a mind open to everything, attached to nothing. So he learned from many different sources. He quotes the Bible, he quotes Jesus, but then he also quotes Buddha, and the Tao. I mean, obviously, who wrote that whole book, Change Your Thought, Change Your Lives, living by the wisdom of the Tao. He lived by the Tao for a year, and it completely changed his life. I read that book. There's 81 verses in it, and he writes a chapter after each verse. I read a chapter of it and his verse every day. So it's 81. So I go through the 81, boom, start back to the top. I've done that so many times. And I tell you right now, because of living that way, is giving me a completely different perspective on life, and a very much more peaceful perspective on life, as opposed to when I had my one narrow way that I was handed before. And it's like, you're always in this state of stress, because you're worried, like, oh my gosh, this, that, the other. And this is the teaching you that if you live slowly, calmly, in a state of love everybody equally, your life's going to flow pretty naturally. Right. And
Yeah,
from my
that's
experience,
exactly it.
it's true. You know?
That's what so I'm going to be going to a wedding. I'm going to a wedding in April, and it's for one of my family members. I'm not going to say who they are, just to not put their stuff out there, but they were concerned about,
Throw their
me,
name
because
out there,
I've been,
Nate. No, I'm just kidding.
no, but
I'm kidding.
but they're going to do, they were concerned because I'm like more on the Christian Jesus path kind of thing. And I'm like supposed to be a part of the wedding, I think, but they're going to do like, I guess you could call it like a Wiccan or a pagan binding ceremony between the bride and groom. And my wife was like, yeah, they were just saying they were concerned about, they don't want to offend anybody. And I'm like, I'm not going to be offended. Like, what's it about? What's that day about? It's about the people getting married. It's about their love. It's not about arguing over what's right and what's wrong spiritually. Like, it's about love, you know? Like, that's what people, but even people who, I think the issue is that so many people still live in, even though we say we're spiritual and we're like enlightened, there's still people who live in that fear-based, like, oh, someone's going to judge me. It's like, why do you care?
Yeah.
You know?
That's the thing. That's the truth. And the thing is ultimately everything is about love. It leads back to love, right? So why are we so concerned with, people thinking differently, reading a different text, doing different things? I tell people, if you're just open, all of it leads back to the same thing. It's all leading back to love. It's when we put our own human context behind it, and then it's taken away from love, and it's focused on all this man-made thought process that literally causes division and problems.
Dude,
It's
that's
it's
exactly
it's
right.
crazy.
That's exactly right. Because think about all of the problems in the world. Probably about 95 to 99% of them are man-made. Like,
Absolutely.
like, uh, like cultural differences, or when people bring up race, it's like we're all the same, bro. It's just like what we're talking about right now, a difference in belief systems. Like we've said before, there's more than one pathway to God.
Absolutely. But what's
Like,
funny is we're all making our way back to God, to our creator, right? That's literally what
yeah,
we're doing. It's just all in a different way, but that's what we're doing. And so if people could understand, like you just said, the difference, I think the fact that there are different races and cultures and beliefs is great, because then guess what? I get to travel to a different country. I get to try a meal that I've never tried because this is what they make in their country and their culture. I get to learn a different way of looking at life, a different language, a different love, whatever it is, right? It's all one love, but a different way of looking at things and doing things. And it makes things exciting. It makes things interesting. Like I said before, if we all looked very similar and all thought and did the same things, this would be boring as shit. So I'm like, no, I want to learn different things, and I want to eat different foods, and I want to try different stuff. That's what's amazing to me, right? I get to share something with somebody that I've learned and maybe they don't know yet, and then it gives them a different perspective on life, and then they get to do the same for me. And it's like, wow, we get to share and exchange these things and broaden our horizons and live a different and more enlightened life. But imagine if we were all the same. It's people are spending so much time trying to get everybody to think the way they do or look at the same views the way they do. Why? Why don't we all just respect and love each other for the fact that we're all different? Who cares? As long as you're
because
not
that's
harming anybody, who cares? If
because that's
if you
the
want
issue.
Barney to be your fucking president, then let Barney be your president. Who cares?
Well, that's a
I'm
little weird.
sorry, but that's the way I look at it. It's like, geez.
But that's the thing, is the answer to that question is our ego.
Yeah.
Everyone's so ego driven, and we don't even realize, most people don't even know what ego is, or they don't even realize when that's taking place, because it's such a natural, or it seems like a natural uh behavior, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like think of, okay, so then go back to the people who are like, prove that there's a God. It's like, well, think about how wonderful it is that, like what you just said, think about how wonderful it is that God created all these different things for us to experience. Like you just said, if everything was the same, it'd be boring as hell.
Yeah. That's what I'm
So think
saying.
about all the environment, people, all the different
We
things you
all
get to learn.
we obviously have a creator that loves us, because it's like, hey, let me give you diversity, let me give you change, let me give you different ways of looking at things and doing things so that you can come here and have a very interesting journey. And yes, that comes along with challenge, because challenge again helps us grow. But if you can look as challenge as also being there to help you, then you're like, okay, so all of this is actually just one hell of a great journey teaching me something. Doesn't mean you're not going to experience loss. That's part of the journey. Doesn't mean you're not going to experience, some of these lower level emotions like sadness and fear and whatever the case is. But when you can learn to release those and understand that those aren't, in my opinion, truly necessary, if you can look at things all from a perspective of, hey, this is all happening for the highest good of all, and you can live in a state of love. It's okay to experience these little moments of sadness or whatever the case is, but don't live in them, right? Have your moment, have your day, your hour, whatever it is, and then move on and get back to the place of love and peace, and understand that's where we're intended to spend most of our time. And when we can look at the fact that everybody is doing things the best that they can from where they're from and their stage of their journey, and we're all different for a purpose, let's all love each other. It's like, and let's all support each other. Let's all be here as a unit and a team, because ultimately that's what we are, is one big ass team. Right.
Exactly.
So,
And there's another interesting thing is that man, I just lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me. I've been cleaning the house all day, so
You need to stop
how
inhaling
do
all
you
those
do that?
cleaners. Stop inhaling all those unnatural cleaners, Nate.
I know my brain cells are fried, but yeah, man. Like, I think the like we're just so conditioned to be one way or another that it's like no one ever. That's like what you were talking about. Go experience different things. Like, how many people in a family stay in the same town for 100 years?
Yeah.
That's why your beliefs are the way that they are, and why you view the world you do, because you've never experienced anything else. Go live life.
And unfortunately, that's often done out of either something, a belief system that was handed to them, or a fear-based reasoning, or a false comfort, right? When you may have people from that family that really, really, really want to go experience something else, but they'll give you all the reasons why they can't because they were handed a different way of looking at it. And that's why I always tell people, so love your family, love that they want to do things the way they want to do them. But at the end of the day, what does your heart tell you? And follow your
Yeah.
heart. Let them know you love them, but hey, I'm going to go experience this because this is really just a part of my journey. I can tell, I can feel it. It doesn't go away. I'm going to go experience this. I will love you from afar. We can FaceTime, we can write, we can visit, but I'm going to go do what I got to do. You'll never
And
regret
then
that.
I know what I was going to say. The last thing, we'll end on this note, is that we were talking about everything that we just talked about. A lot of the issues that we have is we're so afraid of other people judging us. And one thing I kind of learned from watching those NDE episodes is that not even God judges us. The only one who judges us truly that matters is ourselves.
Yeah.
So be kind to yourself.
Be kind to yourself and forgive yourself when you do something that you see as a mistake. Especially, I mean, I think for me, I've judged myself a lot when I've done things that have hurt people, hurt people's feelings, and but what you do from that is you learn from it. You don't keep beating yourself up over it. You learn from it and don't repeat it, right? Sometimes, unfortunately, that takes us a few times, and then you get it finally, because we're all here to learn a lesson. So, like for me, I've had to learn through, unfortunately, making decisions that have hurt people's feelings in the past to never do that again. So I've now made that pact with myself that I'll never do anything to hurt another person's feelings, anything that's within my control, right? But not that means intentionally. I'm not going to hurt somebody's feelings intentionally. Sometimes you may make a decision or say something that you're not doing out of ill will, but you make a decision that still ends up hurting somebody's feelings, because someone's going to be like, well, I wish you wouldn't have made that decision. Well, I'm sorry. If it's for what I feel I need to do in my heart, then I'm going to do that. But that doesn't mean something that's obviously with a negative context, right? You know what I'm saying? Something that you're doing out of a selfish state. Like if you're being a selfish asshole, it's a different story. So,
For our
which
best.
I have done.
Same. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna wrap it up, but don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too hard on others, man. Chill out.
Yep.
Your
And
journey is your
just
own path.
try to live a life exactly focused on yourself. Always look back at yourself first. Where are you going? What are you here for? Because at the end of the day, you're on your journey and everybody else is on theirs. So try to love people and meet people where they are. And whoever is put in your path, try to be a light for them. Send them a little love. Don't send them judgment and hate, because that's not our job and that's not what we're supposed to be doing here.
Amen. All right,
Good
ladies and
deal.
gentlemen, we'll catch you in the next one.
Much love to all of you.